Cunningham could go from playing a Fever game to randomly showing up at a bar and singing courtesy of the red, white, and blue with the fans. She's truly the freaking best.
That right there is why Sophie Cunningham has become such an interesting part of this Fever story. She finishes a game, walks into a local bar, and suddenly the crowd treats her less like an athlete who is just passing through and more like someone Indiana has fully embraced. And that reaction is what makes this story so interesting.
I think this game gives you so much that you can use that as a message, and you can use your platform to be the voice of all those innocent people out there who don't have a voice. And I think that's what Sophie Cunningham doing, and I'm a big fan of her, especially when she posted that thing and said, "I said what I said." I was like, "This is the player that I want to be like one day."
Yep. She talked the talk. She walked the walk.
So listen to what NS Cantor Freedom just said. He is not talking about a box score or basketball statistics. He is talking about Sophie's platform, her courage, and her willingness to put her name behind an opinion even when she knows people will argue about it. Whether you agree with everything Sophie Cunningham says or not, that difference is important because her rise is happening on two different levels at the same time. The first is basketball. She joined an Indiana Fever team that was already under the biggest spotlight in the league because of Caitlin Clark. Instead of disappearing behind that attention, Sophie has managed to build an identity of her own. The second level is cultural. Her interviews, public appearances, social media moments, personality, and willingness to speak openly about what she believes have made people who may never have paid attention to her before start noticing her. And that creates the real question this video needs to answer. Is Sophie simply going through a short period of viral popularity, or has Indiana found something much more valuable? Because when we get to what the Fever actually need to decide about her future, her basketball value and her business value start coming together in a way that should make the front office pay very close attention.
Look at the star that Sophie Cunningham is right now. Look at the support that she has in Indiana, and these goofballs in the front office really only gave her a 1-year deal. Wow. You can't make
that crowd
this
reaction is the kind of evidence you cannot easily create. A team can buy advertisements, promote someone heavily on social media, and put a player in every promotional graphic possible. But it is much harder to create a room full of regular fans reacting to someone as if they already know and like her. And look at what is happening here. Sophie is not standing behind a barrier at a planned-sponsored event where fans were told she would arrive at a certain time. This is being presented as a natural post-game moment, and that difference matters. Fans love access. They enjoy feeling like the players they watch on television are willing to be around them without acting completely separated from them. That does not automatically make Sophie the second biggest star in the entire WNBA. That is a much bigger claim, and other WNBA stars have their own large fan bases and accomplishments. But it does show that Sophie Cunningham is moving beyond being seen as just another role player on Caitlin Clark's team. People are starting to look for Sophie moments specifically because Sophie is part of them. Sports celebrity is not only about who scores the most points. It is also about recognition. It is about whether fans stop scrolling when they see your face. It is about whether a clip that has little or nothing to do with basketball can spread simply because your personality makes it interesting. During this recent stretch, Cunningham has repeatedly shown that she can create that kind of attention.
The Heart went to the bar top on Friday night. Hours after the Fever's 98-87 victory over the Wings, Cunningham went viral on social media after she climbed the top of the bar at Clayton County's Country Bar in Indianapolis and belted out Toby Keith's courtesy of the red, white, and blue as the crowd sang along. The performance came after Cunningham helped the Fever continue their late-season surge with her 8th win in their last 10 games, giving her another viral moment.
Now you can see why that post-game moment matters. The Fever had just beaten Dallas 98-87, and the source says Sophie Cunningham went viral a few hours later at a country bar in the Indianapolis area. From a franchise perspective, those are two separate wins. Indiana gets the result it wants on the court, and then one of its players keeps the Fever in the spotlight online after the game is over. That matters because modern sports teams are not only competing for attention during games. They are competing for attention every day and every hour. A player who creates a memorable moment after a game can keep the story going long after the final buzzer. Someone who did not watch the Fever play Dallas might see Sophie in a viral clip, become curious about what happened in the game, and then start following the team. That is what people miss when they dismiss everything outside the court as meaningless celebrity activity. Basketball still has to be the foundation. No serious team should choose players simply because they go viral online. But when a player can help the team win while also creating attention that the franchise does not have to produce itself, that combination has real value. Caitlin Clark obviously operates on a completely different level when it comes to attention. Sophie does not need to compete with Caitlin for that role, and Indiana would be making a mistake if it treated them like they were competing for the same spotlight. The opportunity is complementary. Clark can remain the main engine of the Fever phenomenon, while Cunningham can become one of the personalities that gives the larger audience another reason to stay connected to the team. That is how a strong sports brand becomes bigger than one player without pretending that every player is equally important.
Wow, she's just literally hanging out there. She's literally just hanging out. Oh gosh, folks, it's cool when they don't try to like hide from the public, when they don't try to like shield off from the public, act like they're bigger than the public, when they actually ingratiate themselves with.
And this might be the simplest reason fans connect with Sophie. The source describes her as someone who is willing to interact with people instead of staying away from them. There is an important truth in that: being accessible can create loyalty. There is a difference between admiring an athlete and feeling connected to one. You can admire a player because she is talented, but real attachment can happen when fans feel like they understand her personality. That is why behind-the-scenes videos, press conferences, jokes, celebrations, outfits, interviews, and random moments can be so important. They show fans a side of the person that they would not see if she were only a name and number on a jersey. Sophie has embraced that. She can play with a lot of physicality and emotion during a game, then be funny and relaxed afterward. She can attend a major event, give a controversial interview, sell merchandise, interact with fans, and then appear in a casual post-game video. Each of those moments can reach a different group of people. But there is another side to this. More visibility also means more criticism. The more of your personality you show, the more people who disagree with you will notice you. Sophie is not building a profile where everyone agrees with everything she does. She is becoming a more polarizing figure, and that can create both extremely loyal supporters and strong critics. For a team, that is something to manage rather than automatically fear. The key question is whether the attention continues to support basketball and the team instead of becoming bigger than the game itself. So far, the Fever are benefiting because Sophie's growing profile is happening while the team is also winning games. That context makes a huge difference.
She is truly America's sweetheart, just gets better with each clip. It's her birthday tomorrow, and she'll be old enough to be a U.S. Senator. Just saying. It's true. Sophie Cunningham loves America. She is absolutely amazing. She's beyond hilarious. Well, that just started my 60th birthday off with a bang. Is it wrong to have a girl crush on her, even if we're both straight? I love her. Yeah, Sophie Cunningham's turned into America's sweetheart.
Look at the language these fans are using. They call Sophie Cunningham America's sweetheart, a national treasure, and openly talk about how much they love her personality. That is not the language people normally use when judging a basketball player. That is celebrity language. But before we get too carried away, social media comments are not scientific polls. A few excited posts cannot prove that Sophie is the second most popular player in the entire WNBA. That would require much stronger data about national audience size, social media reach, merchandise sales, and other measures of popularity. However, we should not ignore what these comments show. They show that the relationship between Sophie and her fans is changing. She is building supporters who care about her as a personality and as part of the Fever story, not just as a player who comes off the bench or fills minutes on the court. That difference becomes very important over time. Shooting percentages can change, starting lineups can change, injuries can happen, and coaches can change rotations. But a player with a strong personal brand can continue attracting attention even when her role on the court changes. For Indiana, that gives the team something it badly needs around Caitlin Clark: recognizable supporting personalities. Every great sports story develops them. One superstar brings the huge audience into the building, but then fans discover teammates they love, players they debate, coaches they criticize, rivals they cannot stand, and stories they want to keep following. That entire ecosystem can turn a short burst of attention into long-term fandom. Sophie has placed herself perfectly inside that ecosystem because she is difficult to confuse with anyone else. She has a unique personality, a unique playing style, and an increasingly loyal group of supporters. If you want to keep following how her growing popularity could affect Indiana's future roster decisions, subscribing makes sense because the next stage of this story is where popularity starts turning into real
really
leverage.
Is carving out her own individual fan base. She really has done a great job of carving out her own individual fan base, and you saw it with her shoe selling, with her player exclusive selling out. You saw it instantly with her player exclusive selling out. I'm sure XXXY Athletics is seeing it as well with all of the sales that they've had since Sophie Cunningham's comments from that interview.
Sold-out merchandise example is especially important because attention becomes much easier to measure when people are willing to spend money. The source points to Sophie Cunningham's player-exclusive shoes selling out and suggests that her other brand partnerships may also be benefiting from her increased popularity. However, we should separate what is actually shown in the clip from what is only speculation. The shoe sellout is presented as evidence, but we do not know exactly how much extra money her other partnerships have made because of her recent publicity. So we should not make up a number and present it as fact. The bigger business idea is clear, though. Brands want athletes who can turn attention into action. Views are valuable, engagement is even better, but actual purchases are where an athlete's commercial power becomes much harder to ignore. Sophie also has an advantage that would be difficult for another team to recreate. She is connected to the Caitlin Clark attention machine. That does not take anything away from Sophie. Instead, it explains why the environment around her is helping her grow. Fever games receive huge attention, and their clips spread constantly online. Every controversial foul, quote, press conference, or sideline moment can reach an audience far beyond the traditional WNBA fan base. A player can either become overwhelmed by that level of attention or learn how to use it. Sophie appears to have used it. She already had an established career and a strong personality, but playing in Indiana gave her a much bigger stage. Then she created the moments that allowed her to take advantage of that opportunity. That second part is important. Simply playing next to Caitlin Clark does not automatically create an individual fan base. Several Fever players receive the same overall exposure, but they do not all generate the same level of discussion. Sophie has turned that opportunity into her own identity. That is why judging her popularity only by points per game misses the bigger picture. Her value is becoming much more than basketball statistics. It includes her role on the court, team chemistry, physical style, fan connection, ability to create content and attention, and growing commercial value. None of these things should automatically guarantee her a contract, but together they absolutely deserve consideration when the Fever decide what they want their roster to look like in the future.
Has made headlines of late after she addressed the topic of transgender athletes competing in women's sports in a bombshell interview with ESPN last month. Quote, I got a lot of negative feedback about me hating trans. I'm like, I never once said that. I think that I'm here to extend love, but I also think that with love is truth, being honest, and I want to protect young girls.
Now we reach the part that explains why Sophie Cunningham's profile has grown so quickly, and also why we need to be careful when judging it. Cunningham publicly spoke about transgender participation in women's sports. She said she wanted to treat people with love while also sharing her concerns about protecting young girls in locker rooms. This is a politically and culturally sensitive issue, and people can strongly disagree with her views. For this story, the important point is not whether someone agrees or disagrees with her. The important point is what happened to Sophie's public profile after she spoke about the issue. She entered a conversation that was much bigger than basketball. When an athlete speaks publicly about a controversial issue, her audience can change very quickly. People who have never watched a Fever game may suddenly know her name because they saw her comments in political, cultural, or general news coverage. Some people will support her because of what she said, while others will criticize her for the same reason. That is how polarization works. It can increase an athlete's visibility while making it harder for people to remain neutral about her. From a pure star power perspective, that can make recognition grow extremely fast. Some athletes have better basketball careers but remain known mostly by serious sports fans because their public identity never goes beyond the court. Sophie is taking a different path. She is connecting her name to her personal beliefs and accepting the attention and criticism that come with that choice. Whether this is the right long-term strategy depends on what she wants her platform to become. But it helps explain why the attention around her now feels much bigger than the normal attention given to a supporting player. We are no longer just watching a basketball player become popular. We are watching a larger public personality take shape.